Hey everybody, welcome to today's webinar and thank you for joining us. My name is Amelia McClellan and I work for the Michael and Susan Dell Center for Healthy Living, and I will be moderating today's webinar. Today's webinar is hosted by the Michael and Susan Dell Center for Healthy Living at the UT Health School of Public Health in Austin. The center's vision is healthy children in a healthy world. Before we get started on today's presentation, I wanted to make some housekeeping announcements. One, this webinar is being recorded and will be archived along with the presentation slides on our website at msdcenter.org. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them into your questions box and we will have time for a Q&A at the end of the presentation. Lastly, I wanted to remind everyone that the UT Health School of Public Health Austin campus is celebrating its 15th anniversary, and we will be having special events and webinars throughout this year. For more info on our 15th anniversary, please visit go.uth.edu/Austin15. I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Augusto Cesar de Mores. Dr. de Mores is an assistant professor of the Department of Epidemiology, Human Genetics, and Environmental Science here at the UT Health School of Public Health Austin campus. He was previously at the University of Sao Paulo, where he was an assistant research professor and also the scientific coordinator for the Youth Child Cardiovascular Risk and Environmental Research Group. Dr. de Mores has gained research experience in epidemiology of cardiovascular health, diagnostic methods, environmental and socioeconomic determinants, and lifestyle behaviors. His current research interests include determinants of cardiovascular health, multiple lifestyle-related behaviors, possible interactions with environmental determinants in young people from low and high-income countries, including countries in North America, Latin America, and Europe, evidence-based medicine and public health, and the effectiveness of health behaviors promotion, such as healthy diet and physical activity policies. I will now hand it over to Augusto to start his presentation titled Double Burden of Malnutrition, Epidemiology in Low and Middle Income Communities.
Thank you, Amelia, and good morning, everyone. For me, a pleasure to provide this webinar, and thank you for this nice introduction, Amelia. And as Amelia said, I am assistant professor here in UT Health Houston, School of Public Health in Austin campus. I will talk a little about the double burden of malnutrition epidemiology, mostly in low and middle income communities. So just start, and I will have any conflict of interest, and all the views and opinion is by myself and not necessarily represent UT Health Houston or our research center. Just highlighted to you, this year we complete 15 anniversary here, School of Public Health in Austin campus. Please join us in these upcoming events next month. You can get some more information, this QR code in the left side here. And we have 3 upcoming events to celebrate our 15th anniversary. You please join us in these 3 nice events coming next month. So just a brief summary, what we'll talk today. We talk a little introduction about what is the nutrition epidemiology transition in low and middle income communities. What is nowadays the obesity and underweight prevalence? What is the burden of malnutrition? I don't know if everyone here is familiar with this concept. I will try to talk about how you can evaluate, how is the prevalence, and how you can try to treat and prevent this important health outcome, and what you can moving forward in science in this field. So to start, as almost 15 years ago, Omar said the epidemiology transition move from nowadays because we have COVID, but change. So the concept from infectious disease to non-communicable disease, and this came highlighted to us in Dr. Willits almost 25 years ago. The nutrition epidemiology tried to understand what's happened in this kind of no communicable disease, mostly in, as I highlighted here for you, energy imbalance related behavior. So such as diet, physical activity, sedentary behaviors, and sleep, and how this reflects or how this affects non-communicable disease. But what is the importance of this? So nutrition epidemiology have almost 5 goals. So the first one, I try to figure it out about the nutritional problems or nutrition priorities. For example, I highlighted you, and when we compare higher income countries or high income communities with low and middle income communities or countries, the nutritional problems is different. And how is, and the second step is which group is more vulnerable for each kind of health problem, and how is the causality between nutritional problems and the disease, and how we can design some intervention to treat or to prevent this kind of health issues, and how is the effectiveness of these interventions. So this is top 5 goals in nutrition epidemiology. So as the previous said, when you see here the high income communities, the most important problem in dailies, and dailies is the days of life you will lose because of this kind of problem. We have tobacco, pressure, alcohol, cholesterol, and overweight. And we can see here some deficiency. Iron deficiency is the 10, the kind of problem. And when we compare here with low and middle income communities, underweight is the first one. Remember, tobacco is the first one for higher income communities, and the iron deficiency is number 6. And we have a zinc deficiency number 5. Vitamin A is number 7. So you see, and overweight is number 17. So as you can see here, and we have a little difference patterns when we compare higher income communities when lower income communities. So this is important to design some intervention or try to understand what's happening with this kind of health issues when we compare different income communities. So, but what is the double burden of malnutrition? I show you some burden of disease, but what is the double burden of malnutrition? The double burden of malnutrition, 10 years ago, these both authors from World Bank concept this health issue is a coexistence in the same person on the same population, 2 different problems. The one side is obesity, and another side we have micronutrition deficiency. Show you we can measure the micronutrients deficiency different ways. Can be iron deficiency, can be vitamin D, can be vitamin A, and overweight. And try to moving forward this concept. Rivera, professor from Mexico, they step forward this concept. Okay, it's not only individual level we can have this a double burden of malnutrition. We can have in 3 different levels. And we have the individual level, as I said, when we have obesity and microdeficiency. And you can have household level and country level. But what is the difference between these levels? What is the concept, or what is the criteria to evaluate that? So each level have a different criteria to measure or to diagnostic the double burden of malnutrition. When it's said individual level, is only focused on the child or the adolescents. So it is the child have overweight or obesity. Mostly is iron deficiency for 2 main reasons. The first one, iron deficiency related anemia, and the second one is the most common micronutrient deficiency, or the children has stunt and micronutrient deficiency. When we're looking for the household level, we introduce the mom in this concept. So the mom have overweight or obesity, and the child is thin. So they have 2 person to measure. And when you think the population level is the more abroad this concept. When we have a medium prevalence, I show you what is the medium level prevalency, but overweight, obesity in children and adolescents. And WHO conceptuals is medium prevalence when we have more than 10% prevalence. This is a worrying prevalence in the same population. So, for example, if in here United States, for example, we have more than 10% of overweight and more than 10% of underweight, and we have this, we can characterize United States have double burden of malnutrition problem in children and adolescents. And almost 3 years ago, several authors write a series in Lancet because they started looking for this double burden of malnutrition is a worldwide problem, not only in low in middle income countries. And here, just to highlight again, we have 3 different levels of the concept. We have the individual, and we have the household, and we have the population level. And why this is important, because as we know, overweight and underweight have health outcome related. So the children have underweight, they have more probability to die before 10 years old, and overweight have more probability to develop cardiovascular risk factors such as diabetes or high level of cholesterol and high level of blood pressure, for example. So this is important, try to understand what's happened. But what is the prevalence of these health issues? So when we see here and across the worldwide, so we have here in South Asia, in urban area for women, we have a double burden of malnutrition because the prevalence is over 10%. And we can see here in rural area, in sub-Saharan Africa, we have the problems too. And almost South Asian, in rural areas, you have too. And again, in urban area, sub-Saharan Africa, we have this kind of problem too. So it's not only a problem for higher income countries, but we see this problem in lower middle income communities and countries as well. So it's not only the problem for obesity right now, but the underweight continue to be a health problem in this kind of populations. So when we see the children, step 4, the children problems, we see the prevalence of stunt anemia or overweight. This is in Latin America. So you have only Chile and only country in Latin America, we don't have this kind of problem for anemia or stunt. So Brazil, we have a little problem. 20% of the children has anemia and 7 to 10% have overweight and obesity. But this is different because this is between 2006 and 2012. I show you what I found last years in Latin America, and the more recent prevalences, and this is worrying right now. So here, because this found this kind of problem, and Dr. Rivera and his colleagues published in this in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition a few years ago a supplement about what's happened double burden of malnutrition in Latin America. So, and you can see here they have, I think, 8 or 9 papers to talking about this problem in Latin America. So I just highlighted you some of the most 3 papers interesting here. So what's happening in Guatemala, in Central America, we can see here in household level, we have a worrying prevalence. So the mom have obesity, 20% of their children have stunt. And we can see the indigenous people have 28% and no indigenous people have 15%. So there's a higher prevalence in this country. And we here in Uruguay in Latin America is considered a higher income country. We can see when we see in the World Bank classification. So we can see here, even in one country has characterize a high-income country, we have here the same problem. So 6% and the mom have the children have stunts is a worrying prevalence. And we see here in Colombia, you have almost the same. So we can see different between the prevalence. So we have lower than 10%, but and when we compare with Guatemala have a huge prevalence of this health issue. And the next one is I show you here in North America, in Mexico, and between almost 8% the prevalence of the double burden of malnutrition in household level. What's happened here in the United States? This is the only paper that I found in literature about the double burden of malnutrition in United States. So we can see here the prevalence is worrying about obesity, 38%, and the prevalence of stunts is not too high, 6%, but when we can see here, stunt is 5% of the children here in the United States have double burden of malnutrition. And why this is important, and as Amelia said, so I'm epidemiologist, but I have background in physiology. Every time when I see some health issue problem, I try to understand the biological plausibility, because it is one criteria to establish cause inference, and I try to understand what's happened not only in population level, but what's happened in physiology happens. As we know, when the children has obesity, they have more probability to visceral adipose, insulin resistance, impaired glucose, and some cardiovascular issues such as hypertension and stiffness, carotidity, and metabolic syndrome. But if the only obesity is the key to develop iron deficiency, or the iron deficiency can develop obesity. So you can see the both ways. We don't know until today what comes first. So try to understand that. 2 years ago, they published this systematic review, try to understand what is the relationship between obesity and iron deficiency. And they found 2 papers only, and then found, so the children has obesity or overweight, they have more probability to present lower levels of iron, and can be around 3.5 more odds to present lower serum levels of iron. But what's happened in physiology? So Dr. Fernandez Real, from his Spanish scientist, tried to understand what is happened, why the obesity cause the iron deficiency. And see here some pathways. So when they have higher direct fats and they increase the adiposity, and the adiposity have some effects on the epicydin. What is the epicydin? Epicydin is the protein to carry the iron from the outside the cell to inside the cell to metabolize and provide red blood cell. We're related with oxygen on the blood. So this is one pathway. The adiposity have blocked the epicydin activation. And here, when we have this kind of iron deficiency, we have increased the insulin secretion that can a long time develop insulin resistance, and is related with some liver issues on the glucose metabolism. And you can see here again the iron deficiency increased the insulin resistance, and because they increase the probability and to decrease the adiponectin. So as we know, when we have higher levels of adiposity, we decrease the adiponectin, and this can cause more inflammation, and the inflammation can block iron metabolism. So this try to understand what's happened. So 3 years ago, Dr. Gans published this editorial, try to understand what's happened when the people have obesity on the anemia. He calls the anemia inflammation. This is our name for double burden of malnutrition. So we have here some effects of the adiposity on iron deficiency and anemia inflammation. So they have a lot of these different biomarkers, but you can see here when we have iron deficiency, we have lower level epicidin. As I said, epicidin is the responsible to carry the iron to inside the body, inside out. But when we have inflammation, on the other hand, we increase the epicidin, but when you increase a lot of epicidin, our system is not cannot use a lot of epicidin. We have threshold to use. If you increase a lot, so you have this overload iron. This is a problem. Another side of the effect of the adiposity. As I previously said, you to compare. Hold on, not now. A seminar. Sorry. So we try to understand what's happening in our days and the prevalence of double burden of malnutrition in South America. So we performed this multi-center study 4 years ago in 7 cities in Latin America and in 5 countries, and we evaluate almost 500 children and adolescents between 3 to 18 years old. What we found was almost 20% of our children and adolescents present overweight or obesity, 41% present iron deficiency, and we can see here the definition by WHO, and almost 16% the children and adolescents present double burden of malnutrition in individual level. So this is a totally different that previous Dr. Rivera found in 2012, and we updated the prevalence. So you can see, because they increased the prevalence of overweight and obesity, we found this kind of problem in Latin America right now. So as I said to you, we need to understand what's happening in the United States right now. We have only one paper present that I show you the prevalence of double burden of malnutrition in the United States. I did this search yesterday. Another 21 papers here is not in children and adolescents. In children and adolescent pediatric population, we have just one paper published nowadays, and the prevalence estimation is from 10 years ago. So we need to continue to understand what's happening right now, because as we know, the United States presents a higher prevalence of overweight and obesity in pediatric population. So here, when we found another indicator of microdeficiencies such as vitamin D, we have almost 10% of girls present overweight and vitamin deficiency, and 5% of the boys. So in girls, you will see, according WHO prevalence cutoff point is a worrying prevalency. And about iron deficiency, we have almost 10% too. So what is the difference? Because we can evaluate microdeficiency for different indicators. This is the most common, vitamin D and iron, as I previously said to you. So what is the future challenge to understand double burden of malnutrition? The first one, as I said, is to study here in the United States what is the real, or right now, prevalence of double burden of malnutrition. This is the first challenge here in the United States. And the second one is try to evaluate which criteria is better to estimate the prevalence of double burden of malnutrition. Is individual level or household level? Because these have effects, as I previously said, effect on the prevalence. If I choose use the household level, is can indicate one prevalence. If I choose individual level, is another prevalence we can estimate. So this is one study that we're developing right now. One PhD from under my supervision, she tried to understand which criteria is better for double burden of malnutrition to predict cardiovascular health. Because as I show you, double burden of malnutrition have some pathways to increase the probability to develop cardiovascular health issues. Until today, we don't know which criteria is better to predict cardiovascular issues in pediatric population, and until today, we don't know which is better for use individual level or household level. And an important thing to choose these different criteria is when we have individual level, our estimate can be more precise, but is more expensive to carry on these studies, because we need the blood samples, we need the parents' permission and to take blood of the children. So this kind of is not one problem that we focus. We have to focus with more cost effectiveness of this to estimate the prevalence. If the household level have the same prediction accuracy than individual level, I can say you it's better to choose the household level, because the household level is less expensive than individual level, because they don't need take blood for the children, for example. But we still don't know which criteria is better. As I said, your individual level, just reminding you, this is our data collection in South America. So we will need this height and weight and take blood. You can see this little guy here is pretty happy to take blood, and is not a huge problem. So as I said, we try to compare with household level, with the mom, weight and height by BMI, and the height of the children. And our outcome is the most recently cardiovascular health score provided by American Heart Association. This is one combination of score for different indicators. So we have here for tobacco and sleep, health diets, physical activity, glucose levels, and BMI, lipids levels, and blood pressure. So this is we try to compare to estimate which criteria is have better prediction. And we use different methods. The most recent methods the science showed to us to prediction model is machine learning approach. We try to introduce this concept in machine learning algorithm and to estimate what is the accuracy of these different criteria. And this we make some internal validation in South American population, and the moving forward is try to test the external validity here in the United States. In this study, obesity study, is the largest study here in the United States about pediatric health. They almost have 11,000 children and adolescents evaluate each year. That start in 2018. And they continue follow up this sample until 2017. So they almost 10 years follow up of these children. This is 21 here in the United States. Unfortunately, we don't have data collection text, but I think this is mostly largest cohort study here in the United States. And this is a huge information about the pediatric health. As I said, they follow up for each year. I have a lot of different information for the children and their parents. And we will introduce again the ABCD data sets in the machine learning algorithms, and we try to learn which criteria is better to predict. In the end, our goals is to provide for the doctors and science community which criteria is better to estimate these kind of health issues. Another side, as we know, this is a problem, have now we try to intervene to promote health behaviors. This is one systematic review performed for friends in São Paulo, and try to understand if when we promote intervention to try to increase the active community for children and adolescents, and this can be effects on the physical activity level of the children. And they did this systematic review and meta-analysis. So as you can see here, when we found just 2 papers, and when you compare for counts per minutes of this minutes of the activity of the children, and you have one important results here. And when you promote the active community, you have effects on increased physical activity level to children go by bike or walking from home to the school. So this is one public intervention, and we can see if you promote safe community, and the children can go more by bike or walking to school, and when compare previous data sets and before this promotion. And when we try, this is a public intervention, and we know we see these deficiencies, you have to try to promote individual intervention too. So one approach is to promote health education intervention. As we talk about children, it's important to involve the parents, mostly in the mother, to involve in these health interventions. So here, this is a key message of the health interventions, just 3 key messages. Promote health eating habits for the children, and promote healthy snacks. Try to teach the mother and the parent and the father to promote eating snacks, not only these kind of high-fat snacks. And we see previews and try to teach the parents to promote active leisure time, mostly outside for physical activity in their kids. Again, we have a little information about the intervention on double burden of malnutrition in low and middle income communities. Is the only one intervention that I found in clinical trials and in the literature. This is one intervention the CIS carry on in Bangladesh. They focus on the mother efficacy to teach the mother to increase health habits and to promote physical activity. And here, this is the intervention group they call NeoMom, and the print is the control group. What is the difference? In the intervention group, they teach the mom some approach to increase the efficacy to promote eat fruit and vegetable, health protein, and increase the physical activity. And the control group, this just sent to the mothers some health informations, but they don't teach the mom. This is the difference between intervention and control group. So this is the baseline, and you can see here only difference is on children weight and the mom food expenditure. So in the control group, they have a little more money spent on food when you compare the intervention group mom. As you can see here on weight, both groups increase the weights of the children, and the print group, so the control group, increase a little bit more, but they start more weights than the intervention group. But this important thing is the intervention group decrease the difference between high when you compare the control group. And we can see here in the baseline, the control group is higher than the intervention group. And after 3 months of intervention, they decrease the difference. This is one interesting results. And about the health eat habits. So here, the intervention group, the mom have more efficacy to provide food and their kids when we compare control group against intervention group. So this is another interesting result. So the intervention group mom, they provide more fruits after 3 months intervention when we compare the control group moms. And to provide animal protein, we don't have difference, but again, see the opposite sides after 3 months interventions, but no significant difference. So this intervention showing us some conclusions. So teaching the mom about health education have impact on to engage the mom to provide fruit and vegetables, and they provide more health protein, but they do not have significant difference in weights and weights gain for the children when compared intervention group and control group. Some conclusion from my side is underweight is still higher prevalence in low and middle income communities. And the last 20 years show the prevalence of obesity is increasing in these kind of communities. And the new approach to understand double burden of malnutrition, and you can understand better the pediatric health when we're just looking for one side of the problem, only we're looking for underweight or when we look for obesity. Try to combine to understand that. It's better to understand what's happening in the pediatric population. So health education can increase the physical development mostly in active community and increase the mother efficacy to provide eating fruit and vegetables for the kids. And it's still necessary long-term studies to understand what's happening right now, mostly here in the United States, about the low double burden of malnutrition prevalence and long-term effects on the intervention to promote health habits in this kind of population. So I just want to say thank you for the University of Texas and Health Center at Houston here, mostly in Austin campus, Mike and Suzel Dell Center for Health Living, and our funding is in South America, FAPESP, Medical School, University of São Paulo, and School of Public Health, University of São Paulo, and our research group here in Austin, in our research group in São Paulo too. And thank you for your time, and I open for listening your questions. Dr. Kelder. Hello.
I think that Dr. Kelder might be having some connection issues, so I can go ahead and moderate right now. Thank you for that presentation. That was very interesting. While we wait for some questions to roll in, was there anything else that you wanted to touch on regarding this study or this research? As a reminder to everybody, please go ahead and put your questions in the chat box and we will try to get to them. So the first question that we have is, based on this current study and research, how does this impact your future research or what you plan to move forward with?
Which study? SACARE?
The double burden of malnutrition. Is this something you plan to continue researching, or how does that impact your future research?
Yeah, this is one health outcome that are interesting to understand. And not only on the prevalence, but what is the effect on cardiovascular health. But since my doctorate, I can consider myself a cardiovascular epidemiologist, and we well established on the literature and the obesity have impacts on the cardiovascular system. But right now I try to understand and if the double burden of malnutrition can increase this harmful effects of the obesity on the cardiovascular system, because we found, and when the children or adolescents have a lower level iron, they increase the blood pressure because they don't have a lot of oxygen on the cells. And I try to understand if the effect of the obesity inflammation can have effects on not only on the cardiovascular system, but iron metabolism as well. So this is one thing that I try to understand next couple of years.
Hello, Augusto. Can you hear me now?
Hi, Dr. Cado. Yeah.
Apologies for being late, and I had a internet meltdown here at home, so I caught most of your talk, but sorry for the technical problems from keeping me from introducing you. And so I thought your webinar went great, and unfortunately, I cannot see audience questions, so I don't know if there are any. Amelia, I don't know if you could chime in. But one that comes to mind after seeing all this is the height differences that you showed seem to be significant and important. And so, can you talk a little bit more about what you think is the biology going on with kids increasing their height over time?
Yeah. The most important difference is the criteria. So when we have different criteria to establish prevalence, then this have an impact on the prevalence. And we found this new data collection we doing in São Paulo. We found so the children, independently of the height, and if they have some obesity indicators higher, they have iron metabolism problem, and this can be related with the total cholesterol metabolism. So we found, unfortunately, in São Paulo right now, almost 55% of the children between 5 to 8 years old have higher cholesterol. So we'll try to understand what's happening right now, and we see almost 20% have iron metabolism problem. Not only in iron, but the ferritin is lower too, and the STFR, soluble transferable ferritin, is lower too. So probably the obesity or the higher level adiposity have the effects on not only in one indicator of iron metabolism, but they have problems in the adiposities and the total cholesterol. And we try to measure right now if they reflect in epicidine as well. So try to understand if we block the pathways of the iron metabolism.
I see. I can see the questions now, and here's one from the audience. Can you please repeat how inflammation affects the absorption of vitamins?
I can talk to you only total vitamins because you can stay here the whole day. One pathway that I try to, but better when you see here the figure. I will talk about iron because this is the mostly important that we found in double Burden of Malnutrition. About vitamin, I'm not familiar with the pathways, but in iron deficiency or iron overload, the mostly important pathway is here. The adiposity block the activation of this protein, they call epicidine, and without epicidine, the iron not going into the cells. They block this because epicidine is the key to putting the iron inside the cells. If you don't have epicidine, and you cannot put in the iron inside the cells. Talking about vitamin D, I know people has higher level adiposities or higher level adipocytes as well, so they don't have a lot of vitamin D serum levels, probably because they happen the same. But the most important thing is the people present obesity. They don't stay outside for a long time to increase the vitamin D levels, because we know the most important thing for vitamin D metabolism is the time under the sun. Not a long time, but it's a minimum 30 minutes per day. And the people who present obesity and overweight, they don't spend a lot of time or the minimal time for under the sun to start the metabolism or the activation metabolism of vitamin D.
I see. Another question is, how bad is the diabetes problem in Texas? And if so, what can be done to help reduce it? I know you haven't been in Texas all that long, but what do you know about diabetes in Texas?
So that's a good question. I'm not familiar with the specific Texas prevalence, but United States, and we have almost 10 to 15% of adults and presents diabetes, and children and adolescents here in the United States who have the incidence, because the prevalence is too hard to say, because the diagnostic of diabetes in children and adolescents is hard to find. I can talk to you about the infrared glucose. We have here in United States almost 20% that should present infrared glucose or insulin resistance.
I see. And you had suggestions for what we can do in Texas to work on this? Those numbers aren't giant, but they're big enough for concern.
Yeah. So as I show you, we can make some health-based school interventions, try to promote physical activity and levels to increase, and to increase the probability to children and their parents to buy fruit and vegetables. When we talk about the iron deficiencies, important vegetables for increase the iron disponibility too, because we know dark green vegetables is most important resource for iron, and try to decrease the screen time, because as we know, as I said about the vitamin D, if they do not spend a lot of time outside under the sun, when we have a huge sun here in Texas, to start the metabolism vitamin D, this is going to be a problem. And I think this important thing to approach is hard to design, as it's hard to intervene in that, but the most important thing is these three keys. And right now I try to understand if of the sleep as well, if the sleep have some way with that. So, but the three mainly goals I can say is active community, by physical activity, by bike or walking, decrease the screen time, and increase the offer vegetables and fruits.
I see. And what do you know about the double burden of the malnutrition and obesity in Texas?
I talked with our dean, Dr. Hosher, about this, and we try to estimate about the household level here in Texas in the next year. Because in Spain, this survey you have here in Texas, they have the mother and BMI measurement. And I think, and we can extrapolate the prevalence I show about the United States. I think here in Texas we can be the same prevalence as we found in South America, between 15 to 20% individual levels. And I'm looking for this knowing a survey by CDC, try to figure out if we have this indicator here in Texas. But in my perspective, because here in Texas we have a higher Hispanic population, probably we have the same prevalence we found in South America. I hope lower, but
yeah.
for my perspective, and probably it will be the same.
Here's another question back on the vitamin D issue. What do you think about supplementation with children and with obesity? Would you recommend that? Vitamin D supplementation?
No, only if the children have some genetic predisposition to not start the metabolism by sun. But from public health perspective, I try to increase first physical activity outside first and decrease the inside activities. And after this, we see it does not increase. I can supplement it, but the first intervention is try to promote outside physical activity and health eating habits. Because we know in adults, it's hard to find some intervention about meat supplements in children. In adults, the vitamin D supplementation just have a huge impact in the population that have some genetic predisposition for block the vitamin D pathways.
I see. Well, there's no more questions in the inbox, and so if anyone has any questions, please ask them now. Otherwise, any final words that you've got for us, Augusto?
Just thank you for stopping by here. If someone interested in this research area, email me, and I think the next couple of years we can find some nice and interest epidemiology insights for the Burden of Malnutrition here in Texas and here in the United States.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Kelda. Thank you, Dr. Kelda, for being the moderator.
Sure. So I guess that's about it for today. Thank you all so much for attending, and thank you, Dr. Morass, to give us a great talk.
Thank you.